Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Port Angeles on another beautiful Thursday evening. I thought we might be in the greenhouse by now, but I'm still on Southern California weather. You know, by April it's warm, by May for sure. But today I thought, maybe next week. And I was someplace this week and, I was walking down to the mailbox. And an older gentleman who clearly has lived here for a very long time, we started chatting. He said, "How's your dog?" And we chit-chatted. And he said, "May 15th. That's when you'll have it be warm, and by October you're going to say, 'Where's the rain?'" So I said, I believe him. I feel like he knows. And I don't know. This is our first year. So we haven't even completed the whole year yet. So it's all new and all discovery. I invite you to turn off any electronic devices you may have so they won't distract you from your experience. If you're seeing this online, we're glad to have you. I invite you to listen with earbuds if you're watching this on your computer. You might find the sound to be a little bit better. Please be willing to share any of our videos that are online. They're on YouTube, they're on our Facebook page, they're on our website, www.cslpa.org. And I invite you to share those with anybody or watch something if you wanted to, what was that thing she said that one day? You can go back and rewind and watch, or if you really like the music. And if you're in the area, we'd love to meet you in person. So we're going to start with a brand new song. We're in May now, believe it or not. And we're going to start with a new opening and closing song. This song is called Home. It's been written by a friend of mine down in Southern California, Deb Avani, and another man named Myron Stam. I again use this opening song to have us kind of let the day go, to slow down, to release whatever's been going on, and just become present. So you'll learn it very quickly, and as always, it's very repetitive, so you'll pick it up. And we're very glad to have Joel here with us. We're just bringing in a whole raft of musicians, and he's a lovely presence. We're extremely grateful to have you here tonight. Hit it. Just take a breath. Love is calling me home. Love has opened the door. Come inside and feel the light. Love asks nothing more. Peace is calling me home. Peace has opened the door. Come inside and feel the light. Peace asks nothing more. Joy. Joy is calling me home. Joy has opened the door. Come inside and feel the light. Joy asks nothing more. Love is calling me home. Love has opened the door. Come inside and feel the light. Love asks nothing more. God is calling me home. God has opened the door. Come inside and feel the light. God asks nothing more. God asks nothing more. Take a breath. Let it go. There's nothing more to do than to just walk in. Just walk into that open door of love and peace and joy, that space of acceptance, of complete acceptance of wherever we are, whoever we are on our path. In every moment. In the joy-filled moments, in the moments that feel less than joyful, there's still this powerful presence that welcomes us in and accepts us right where we are. There's nothing we need to do except show up. That's pretty neat. So, as always, we start with our vision and our mission. You'll find them in your program. I invite you to say them with me if you choose. Our vision. We are an open, safe, creative, and spiritual community where we experience divine love and connection every day. Our mission. Through spiritual, artistic, and social gatherings, we experience and express divine love. Our intentions create ripples of compassion into the world. If there's anything else. Oh, yes. If you're new for us and you'd like to know more about what's going on, feel free to fill out an info card on the table over there, and you can either drop it in our little bowl here or leave it on the table later on, and we'll put you on the mailing list. And if you've got anything that's going on that you would like prayer support for, whether it's something that feels like a challenge or something to celebrate, you know, I got a new house, I'm excited about that, we can stand in celebration for you. We have a written prayer request, and we were going to have starting this week, because we were going to be in the greenhouse after gathering in person, brief affirmative prayer. If someone after our gathering this evening would like a brief affirmative prayer, we have two lovely practitioners, Shirley and Reverend Clancy, who would be available to take you into another room and just sit with you, hear whatever the condition is, and do a brief affirmative prayer. But we will pray on this all week. If you fill this out, drop it in the basket. Reverend Clancy and I will hold it in the highest confidence and in the highest consciousness all week long. So that's all of that. I invite up Shirley Grace to do our opening reading, our brief time of silence, and a beautiful opening prayer. Guaranteed.
Our reading today is from Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind and Spirit. God moves upon God. This is the starting point of creation. Every time one conceives an idea, it is God expressing itself. Take a deep breath and embody those wise words. In this moment, I turn to the awareness and recognition that there is one source, one creative energy out of which all came forth, one divine idea that shows up in multiple forms. I am a divine idea, as is each person here. Each person throughout the world is an idea in the mind of God brought forth gloriously into form. Everything in the universe was first an idea in the mind of God. I am so blessed to know this, and I claim right now, in knowing that creative energy and that we are part of it, we are creative. We cannot help but be creative. That is who and what we are. That is our birthright. Every idea, every desire that we can conceive of is an idea of God ready to come forth and because it is an idea in the mind of God, everything possible to bring it into fruition comes to us as we open to it. I claim an openness to the divine ideas. I claim peace and ease and grace as we create the greatest masterpieces that can be our lives. I am so thankful that this is the way it is. Life is so very, very good. And with great good thanks, I release my word into the law, knowing that it is always and forever returned to me, fully formed. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Shirley. That was beautiful. Joel's going to share a song with us that he wrote. I'm very excited to have him here and to hear his gift.
This is a easy one to sing along with. Come on, people, you believe in love. You got to stand for something or you fall for anything. Come on, people, you believe in love. 'Cause if you believe in love, I want you to sing. I believe in love. I believe in love. I believe in love. I believe in love. Come on, people, you believe in love. You believe this world is greater than it seems. Come on, people, you believe in love. 'Cause if you believe in love, I want you to sing. I believe in love. I believe in love. There's another part. I believe in love. I believe in love. Repeat after me. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. I do believe. I do believe. I do believe. I do believe. I really believe. I really believe. I really believe. I really believe. You know I believe. I believe. You know I believe. You know I believe. I believe. I believe in love. I believe in love. I believe in love. I believe in love.
Yay! But do you believe in love? That's what I I believe. Amen. All right. Take a breath. Let it go. So tonight's talk is flip. Flip/creative confidence. And I'm going to explain all that. So flip, this month, what I noticed is all of the talk titles that are sent to us from home office, we get these lovely little synopses. We could use them or not. We're totally at choice, ministers. But just this year, home office started sending us from ministers all over the country. They would say, here's the topic, now put together a synopsis of a talk. And I usually use some of that. I take the title often, some of the little points that they make, and then I mush it around and make it my own. That's what I do. I'm a gleaner. I take a little of this and a little of that, and then I mix it up and I make it my own. But I liked what they did this month, because you'll see on the front of your program that it says that our monthly theme is about creativity. And then you see flip, dare, spark, and leap. And so those are the main words that we're going to focus on this month. So today is flip. And being a child of my mother, I cannot help but make acronyms. That's what I do. So I have an acronym for flip, and I'll go over it, but I'll tell you what it is first, and then we'll dive into it a little more deeply. So my acronym for flip became fearless looking at intention and purpose. Fearless looking at intention and purpose. Flip. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. When we can do that, we then can step more into confidence in our creativity. As the reading said, and as Shirley said so beautifully in her prayer, we are creative. That is our nature. We can't help but be creative. And everything comes first from an idea. Everything. So what's this? It's a glass. It's a glass in this particular shape, out of this particular material, made by the particular company or person that designed this glass. But before it was this, it was an idea. Before anything that exists it's first an idea. And when we look outside, we see it's first an idea clearly in the mind of something, something other than us. I didn't create any of those plants. Now, someone planted a lot of them, and a lot of them just show up, just all by themselves. And so we think about these ideas of things, and I have a way of looking at ideas that I want to talk a little bit about tonight. I have had a million zillion ideas in my life. I am clearly an idea person. I'm always having a good next idea. And I would often feel overwhelmed by the plethora of ideas in my brain because I felt, well, if it's a good idea, I have to make sure that happens. Otherwise, it will not exist. And I finally got clear that there are what I call good ideas and God ideas. Good ideas are good, but they may not be mine to do. They're probably not mine to do. A God idea is mine to do. So a good idea might be just out there in race consciousness, floating around in the ethers, and it floats through and gets maybe hooked in my brain for a little while because of some resonance that it has in my life. And so it feels like, oh, that's a good idea. I've had a number of those. And then it's not mine to do. It's for someone else to do that. And so it gets more stuck in that person. I invented the purse hook before the purse hook was ever invented. I'd never seen a purse hook. I thought there's got to be something. When you go to a restaurant, you can hook it on there so it's not on your chair, which is always falling, all that stuff. And then literally, like after I had sort of designed it in my mind and visualized it and saw something that could maybe work as a prototype, and my husband and I discussed how we would get this manufactured, very complex stuff. We're flying home on an airplane, and I look in the Skyball magazine, and there's a purse hook.
Oh my gosh.
I swear I had never seen one before. And then they were everywhere. And some people say, they stole my idea. No, it was just not mine to do. Somebody else was to invent the purse hook. I'm off to do other things. So it freed me up. It was like, oh, I could breathe this sigh of relief because I kept seeing that happening. So I could breathe the sigh of relief. That idea is not lost. It's just not mine. God ideas are those that keep tugging me, keep pushing me, keep nudging me along. And then the way keeps being made clear for maybe not the whole thing, but maybe the next step, the step after that. That is creativity. So when we can have an idea, or when an idea shows up, where did that come from? I want to play the flute, you know, or some random thing that we've never thought of before, suddenly feels very powerful or important, then we can dive into that. And a lot of us stop there. Oh no, that's too big, too much, too hard, I don't have the skills, I don't know what I'm doing, and then we just let it go. But it always has this sense of melancholy and longing that sort of hangs around. And we see somebody else doing it, and oh, I really want to do that. So that's when we know a little more that it might be ours to do, to look at. So the first part of flip is fearless. Not to be completely fearless, but to fear less. We're still going to have fear. We're still going to always have that sense of trepidation. My mom used to say, I'm sure she picked it up from somewhere, it's not fear, it's excitement. Sometimes it just feels like fear. But it's the same adrenaline, it's the same energy. So in our mind, can we transmute it from fear to excitement? I just don't know what to do with this excitement, maybe. Can we fear less? Can we be bold and courageous? And as I spoke about a month ago, courage really just means being curious. Being curious enough to ask the what if question. Well, what if I did the next thing? What if I made that phone call? What if I researched that on Google? Saw if somebody else has done that before, or who might have, or what resources I might find. Can I be curious? Curiosity helps to overcome a lot of the stuckness that fear sometimes creates in us. Oh, I'm too old to do that. Well, look at all the people that, you know, there's a whole list of things on Facebook of people that didn't start their true passion until they were 70, 80, 90 years old. So, pshaw to too old. Well, I'm too young. I don't have the education. I don't have the this. I'm not that enough. Whatever. We let that go. Because if it keeps nudging, tugging, pulling at us, there's something there that only we can bring forth through our particular history, our stories, our path. That's the reason that it becomes ours to do. And it may not be just one thing. People say, you know, again, what's my purpose? Well, I don't think it's one thing. I think it may be many things. It may change and shift and transmute. So, can I fear less? Just a little less than maybe I have before. That's kind of a beginning step. L is for looking. How am I looking at the situation? Am I looking at it from fear or from faith? How am I viewing whatever it is that's coming at me? And that's just an open-ended question. How am I looking at this? Am I looking at this from limitation, or am I looking at this from possibility? From, well, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's try. Ernest Holmes says, if through the law, now when Ernest Holmes talks about the law, here's how we explain this thing that we call life. How Ernest Holmes, the founder of our philosophy, talks about it. And this is my favorite metaphor of all time. So the idea is the seed that gets planted. The soil is the receptive medium that holds that seed. We call that the law. The law is completely impersonal. The dirt doesn't care who plants the carrot. It just receives it, right? It doesn't care whether you did a good thing today or a bad thing today. It doesn't care. You plant the seed and you give it a little water, the soil is happy, right? So the soil is what we call the law. The law works impersonally upon the idea that is planted into it. And then it comes out in form as a plant or a thing or an actual material, a glass. So I had the idea, it went into form, here it is. So, Ernest Holmes says, if through the law thought is creative, we cannot say that one thought will create while another will not. We must admit that all thought is creative according to the impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. Because I used to get a little panicky that every thought was super creative, and so, oh, I thought about cancer for half a second. That means I'm going to get cancer. No, that's not it. It's the tendency of our thoughts, the passion, the power, the intention that we put behind our thoughts, the repetitive thoughts that we have that come into form. And we can see that in our own lives, both preferred and non-preferred experiences. If all thought is creative and the power and the intention behind the thought is what allows that seed to root in and become something, how are we looking at this situation? How are we looking at our life? How are we looking at the circumstances that are happening to us, for us? Because if we believe, as I do, that everything is God, everything, and I am a part of that, I am a fish swimming in the ocean of God, I am part of that ocean of God. This is a little, logical thought experiment here. If that is true, that there is only this one power and presence, and if it is true that we are part of that, then everything that is happening is also God and is always for us, even when we can't see it or feel it. So often, someone will say, well, imagine your perfect life. And we get really freaked out. I can't imagine that. That's too big. It's too much. That's impossible. But if I said, imagine what would happen if you didn't pay your mortgage. Oh, you could imagine that really well, right? Or if you didn't pay the electric bill. Or imagine what would happen if somebody smashed into your car on the way home. You could imagine that in full, vivid detail. So how come we have a challenge in imagining what we want, what we desire, what feeds our soul, what our perfect life might look like, feel like, taste like, smell like, what colors would be there? So it comes back to that question. How are we looking? What are we choosing to look at, to look for, to look with? Are we looking with the eyes that see that everything out here is spirit in form in some way? Or are we looking at life happening to us? Just a question. I can't answer that for you, but it's an open-ended question. So, can I fear less? How am I looking at the situation? These are questions. So, fearless looking at the intention and the purpose behind what it is we're moved to do, our creative confidence, our creative urge that's happening through us. So again, another question. What is my intention with the actions that I want to take or that I'm taking? What is my intention here? There are lots of times when I feel out of sorts, fussy, irritated, mad, whatever we want to call all of that. More often, I notice when I want to be reactive to something that's happening, I take a little breath, sometimes a bigger breath, and I ask myself the question, what's my intention here? When I want to snap at my husband for something, what's my intention in the action I'm about to take? Is it to have him feel shame? Is it to affect change? Is it to feel right? Is it to something to feed my ego? Is it out of a perceived need that's not being met that I might have? Or is this intention, the action I'm about to take, in line with my personal vision of being love and light in the world? Is this in line with my purpose? Now that feels like that takes a lot of time and energy to think all of that, right? But it can happen in a millisecond. just in the time it takes to take a breath. So just take a breath. Something happens, we have the choice to react or respond. When we can take that breath, that can enable us to think, okay, what is it I'm hoping to achieve here with the next words out of my mouth, or the next step that I'm taking towards my desire? What's my intention here? And again, that's just a question that we can ask ourselves. P stands for purpose. Our purpose is our vision, our big vision for what we want our life to be. Personally, who do I want to be in this world? I taught drama for years, and for several years, I taught a middle school summer camp. I had students with me for 6 weeks from 9 to 3 every day, 10 to 14-year-olds. Oh, the hormones. And a lot of people don't appreciate middle school kids, and I particularly love working with middle school kids because if I can help them to understand that they have complete choice about who they want to be in life, then maybe when they get into high school and the rest of life, it won't be so hard. At middle school age, you still don't necessarily feel that you have a lot of choice. Maybe your parents aren't telling you what to wear so much anymore, but there's still all these boundaries around when to go to school, what you're going to have at the cafeteria for lunch. There's all these places where we don't feel at choice in our life, whether we're middle schoolers or not, right? I have to do this, I have to do that. There's all these things. My question to them constantly was, yes, and who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Well, but that guy, and he said, and the bully, and okay, great, I get all that. Who do we want to be? You're the only person that can decide that. And you get to choose whatever your parents are going to try to tell you, whatever school's going to tell you, whatever your peers are going to tell you, whatever the world's going to tell you. We get to choose who we want to be. What's our purpose here? What's our personal vision for our life? So we can then become fearless by looking at what is my intention and does that serve my purpose? Does that serve my higher vision for my life? If my vision is just to survive, sometimes that's where we have to start. There was a time in my life where it was, I just have to have enough money to eat and to pay my rent and to make sure I have electricity. And that was about all I could think about for a while. Get the needs met. So my personal vision then was survive. And then we can grow beyond that. Can we stretch, be a little fearless, and say, okay, so what might I add to that? If I'm just in survival mode, can I add maybe an appreciation of beauty? Because that's free, right? I can go outside, I can look at art, I can see beautiful things. Oh, maybe I just add, now my life includes beauty. Now I'm going to shift and I'm going to begin to see, where am I abundant? Maybe my bank account doesn't look so abundant, but maybe I'm rich in friends, or maybe I have a lot of shoes, or whatever that abundance might look like for each one of us. Can we flip the script? We might have had a script running underneath us for decades about who we think we are. Can we flip that? Can we be fearless and re-look at what we believed up until now? Can we really decide, oh, does this fit my intention? Is this in line with my vision, my purpose of life? There's a quote that is often attributed to Goethe, but it actually comes from W.H. Murray, who was a mountain climber. And I'm going to read you where this quote actually comes from. I did some research, and here's what happened, what really happened. So this comes from a book that he wrote called The Scottish Himalaya Expedition. They were, a bunch of him and his people were going to go to the Himalayas in 1951. So here it starts the text. But when I said that nothing had been done, I erred in one important matter. We had definitely committed ourselves and were halfway out of our ruts. I love that sentence. We had committed ourselves, we were halfway out of our ruts of old thinking. It's not going to be possible. How's that ever going to happen? It's never going to work. He said, we put down our passage money, booked a sailing to Bombay. Step one, make sure you got your ticket. So that was, oh, well, what would that look like if we're going to do a Himalayan expedition? Well, we better buy a ticket, right? We better get there. Maybe that's a good step. He said, this may sound too simple, but it is great in consequence. And then here's the part that we've all heard sometime or another, I'm sure, in our life. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiation or initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. Now here's the meat of this. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, the providence moves too. Providence moves too. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance, which no person could have dreamt would have come their way. He said, I learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So that's why it keeps getting attributed to the wrong person, because he referred to Goethe's lines. But this is my favorite thing. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance. Things show up. The right person. We overhear a conversation. Somebody overhears us talking about the passion or the vision that we have for our life. I started putting out the word at the college. I want musicians. Voila! I get a couple of phone calls. Years ago when I wanted to be a drama teacher but had no degree, no bachelor's, no credential, but I was clear. I'm a drama teacher. I just kept talking it up. I'm a drama teacher. Did you know I'm a drama teacher? Hi, nice to meet you. I'm a drama teacher. And an overheard conversation, within a month, I was teaching drama in elementary schools on a regular basis. For decades. For a long time. My husband and I moved to San Diego from Orange County to be caregivers for his mom and grandma. That was the intention. The intention was to be of service, to be a place of love and light, and to be of service. And originally, his mother had had a stroke, and the doctors weren't really clear how long she was going to stick around. They were clear it wasn't going to be long. So we were moving to San Diego temporarily. So we sublet our house that we were renting. We sublet it to a friend, knowing it might just be a month. It might be 3. We don't know. But we're not moving to San Diego. We're just going there for a while, right? So we're just going there. So we're in San Diego for a few months, and his mom is getting better and doing well. And after a few months, I am feeling bereft and lost, because if we don't live there, what's the point of making friends? What's the point of finding a church? What's the point of making a life? Because we don't live there. We live in Orange County. So I don't believe this is really true, because there's no outside presence called God, but I kept feeling like God's going, well, I want to give you your good, but I don't know where to give it. Are you in Orange County or are you in San Diego? Where are you? Finally, after months, 3, 4, 5 months, and I was in a dark hole by this time because I was lonely. My husband was commuting to Orange County every day. I said, we just have to decide. We're living here. We're living here. For however long we live here. We're just living here. We're going to give up the house. We're going to let it go. The next day, the owners of that house we've been renting for 7 years said, we want to sell that house. The minute we decided to stay in San Diego, our other house was out of the picture. Okay, well that's done. Yeah, easy peasy. And then I said I want to find a church, a spiritual center. That's important to us. So we did a little church hopping and we found an amazing spiritual center. In San Diego, you can't hardly spit without hitting one of our denominations. So there was one over there and one over there, and we found one that was awesome. And then, okay, well, if we're living here, well, now I'm going to get some extra caregiving in so I can have a life, and I'm ready to teach drama again, right? So I'm ready to find some work. So I just kind of start telling people, oh, I'm a drama teacher. And someone says, oh, do you know about young audiences? And I said, oh, you mean Young Audiences, the company that I used to work for when I lived in St. Louis? They said, yeah, there's one in San Diego. I said, really? I look up their address. They're down the hill from where we were living. I could have, again, spit on the building. So I call them. Okay, I make the next step. I didn't just sit at home and go, oh, well, Young Audience is going to find me, right? I pick up the phone. I make the phone call. I do the next thing. Well, I don't know if they're hiring. When I worked for Young Audiences, this was like in November when this was all happening. When I worked for them, they had already planned out that school year's programs. So maybe I was going to teach next year, next fall, maybe. So I go and I interview. And they say, oh, great, we'd love to have you. Can you do a demo lesson? I said, of course. So we set all that up. I was teaching by January. It wasn't next fall. It was January. So the minute we make the decision, the minute we truly commit to our desire, whether it makes sense or not, providence moves. Things begin to fall into place. Now we can pay attention or we can ignore them. I could have let that go. Oh no, they'll never hire me now, and never made the phone call. I ended up teaching in San Diego until we left. Drama in elementary schools. We never know where our good's going to come from. We get to be open to it and declare. What are we looking for? What are we looking with? Can I take the next logical step? A couple weeks ago, I read about talked about somebody that said, just do the next calm thing. I like that. The next calm thing. Not the reactive thing, the next calm thing. How can that bless us? We don't know. I didn't know all that was going to happen. I had no idea. We just made the choice. This is where we are. And then the universe goes, oh, now I know where to send all your good. Now I know. I'm clear now. There's an open, receptive vessel waiting for the good to be poured into. Creative confidence, having confidence in our own creative ability, means that we're willing to commit, that we're willing to begin, that we're willing to discover, and that we're willing to keep going. Especially when we have no idea how it's going to work out. Especially then. That's the time of testing. That's the time when all our yeah buts and our fears and our disbeliefs and our unworthiness will rise up and want to stop us. That is the intention of the ego. It doesn't want us to get too big, because then it's not in charge anymore, and it doesn't like that. So it will do everything it can to stop us from stepping beyond its grip. It has its place, but it doesn't get to be the boss. So, flip the script. Na 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 na, we can flip it. Na 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 na, flip it good. Na 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 na, we can flip it. Flip the script. That's all I got to say. Thank you. Take a breath. We're going to do things a little differently starting this month. So we're going to say our affirmation that's in our program. Then we are going to do our conscious giving, and then we're going to bring the bowl back up here. And then together we're going to do our conscious giving prayer over the lovely gifts that have been received. Okay, does that make sense? So first let's say our affirmation together. I flip the script with fearless looking through intention and purpose. This increases my creative confidence, which unlocks new ideas for my highest and best experiences. Good. So this is our time for conscious giving. If you have a tangible gift that you are giving today, I invite you to place it over your heart and just send it a little extra love, knowing that the gifts that we give, tangible and intangible, go forth from this place to do good work. They do good work here through the center, and they also do good work here because we tithe back 5% to local organizations that do good work. So your gifts grow in that way. So I'm grateful for all of these gifts. Let this go around. Maybe you sing a little Love is Calling Me Home as the music goes around. Maybe come back up. Love is calling me home. Love has opened the door. Come inside and feel alive. Love asks nothing more. Perfect. So, I am grateful for all of these gifts and the way that they go forth into the world to do their beautiful work. I know that we consciously give so that we consciously receive, so that we are awake and aware of all the good that is in our life in every single moment. And I invite us to say our conscious giving prayer right here, right now together. I am open to give. I am open to receive. I am grateful to be in the flow of life through and as me. So it is. We've got a new closing song. Oh, thank you, ma'am. It is a peppy little tune. It's in our program. Each and every day. Each and every day, I know I'm gonna share some light.